Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Winside Live. Before I kick it over to Phil Lempert, a couple of stories fresh up on WinsideGroceryBusiness.com. This morning, Ahold Delhaize USA provided some details on the e-commerce facility it is building in Philadelphia. That's notable for a couple of reasons. One, this would be only to our count, only the second time a U.S. grocer has incorporated auto store technology. Auto store, Phil, is the Norwegian company that kind of developed this cube system for storing orders and shuttled around by these robots that travel about the grid, said to have inspired and or been ripped off by Ocado, depending on what the lawsuits say. But interesting on that front. Beyond that, this is going to serve the Giant Direct brand. It's a Giant group that out of Harrisburg, which 2 years ago didn't have anything in Philadelphia, or one store out in the suburbs. Since then, three new heirloom markets with a forthcoming, at least two new full-size supermarkets coming, just hundreds of millions invested in Philadelphia by the Giant company, which is really, I mean, all out assault there. So this facility is going to cost, or it's part of a $114 million 18-month investment that they announced first in January of this year. And like I said, more details on what it is they're building there. So this is an offsite facility to support delivery primarily, using AutoStore to collect this stuff, some Peapod related picking technologies, probably for the fresh goods and the frozen things that are difficult to get through the robotic systems, and through Swisslog, which is a logistics software provider. So that's that. Last week we had a story on Aldi and their growth plans. As they did last year, Aldi's going to build another 100 stores this year. They are, has been well documented in our pages. They are on their way to a goal to be the third largest U.S. grocer by store count. That'd be behind only Walmart and Kroger, and they're pretty close to that now. They're somewhere around 2,000 stores. Aldi mentioned this year, the stores you're going to see most of are in Arizona, where they opened yesterday, in Gilbert, Florida, and in the Northeast, which is interesting because it's an area that they haven't really done a whole lot on relatively to the rest of their U.S. footprint, and another 500 click and collect facilities. That is more than half their store base now, Phil.
Yeah, and John, it's so interesting about Aldi. And let me start off by saying I love Aldi. I think that they're a terrific company. Customers, are great. I had some conversations with them last week when this announcement came up. And one of the reasons for expanding into click and collect is that it's attracting a whole new customer base for them. They are getting customers who have never walked into an Aldi to use their click and collect. But then when I was talking to them about click and collect, I'm getting some conflicting information. So if I go on Aldi's website here in Southern California and I want to click and collect, I will get free click and collect service, but Instacart is paying for that. And the company is saying in all their literature that you have to pay for click and collect if you're going to avail yourself of that service. So I think they've got to get their messaging a little straight and a little bit more unified towards the consumer, so a consumer knows what to expect. Also, what they're saying is on the click and collect through Instacart, you're going to pay more. It's not the same as in-store prices. So what we really need for Aldi to do is decide they're going to do it themselves. If you look back about 6-7 months ago, they had a press release that said that Aldi's pickers, if you would, were Aldi employees. Now it looks like it's Instacart. So they need some clarity. First, what I forgot to say last week was Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. So let me say happy post-Valentine's Day to everybody. And also, I want to show you what Kraft did for Valentine's Day, which I think is horrible. So you're seeing this picture of this candy flavored pink macaroni and cheese. That's what they came up for Valentine's Day. Now, I know during the pandemic, sales of macaroni and cheese from a comfort food standpoint has risen dramatically, but candy flavored pink macaroni and cheese, no, I'm sorry. Kraft, you blew it on this one. Yeah, you got some publicity. Yeah, we're talking about it here. But, no, you're not in the candy business. You're in the macaroni and cheese business. Give us good tasting macaroni and cheese. Did any of you guys try this yet? I haven't tried it, and I won't, just because of the taste and the color profile.
No, but Christine and I were going back and forth, kind of like texting each other about how awful that sounded.
I have a 4-year-old and it was a no for him. Paw Patrol, thumbs up. Candy flavored, no.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And if we take a step back, when Heinz came up with their brilliant PR scheme to have purple ketchup, and sales did go up a little bit from it. And then some brilliant brand manager there said, oh, well, if purple increased our sales, let's do green, let's do pink. I don't even remember the colors. And it just sent sales down. So let's remember it's food, folks. So Jen, talking about health, talking about good tasting food, what's going on with Healthy Living Market?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the opposite of that. And I'm really excited to see if this becomes a trend. It seems that grocers more and more are hiring restaurant chefs away from restaurants for some obvious reasons, and some less obvious reasons. But back in October, I did a story about Alfalfa's market here in Colorado, and they had hired Chef James Mazio, who's a former Food and Wine Best New Chef Award winner, and he's really elevating the cuisine there. And then I had the opportunity to interview Matt Jennings, who is the new VP of Culinary for Healthy Living Market and Cafe, which they have 3 stores currently. 2 are in Vermont, 1 in New York, and they're about to open a 4th in Vermont, and they've got a 5th location underway, and their plans are to continue to expand. But what Chef Jennings is doing is really cool. I mean, he's really bringing a restaurant sensibility, a focus on seasonality, on technique, on a la carte items, things that just haven't traditionally been part of the standard grocery deli prepared foods fare. He's also hiring chefs away from restaurants. He just recently hired a Michelin-starred chef. And he's putting together this really collaborative team that has different areas of expertise. So for example, one chef, he's gonna have a chef stationed at each store location. So one chef specializes in meat. So he's working on a barbecue program. Then he's got another chef who specializes in Middle Eastern farm to table cuisine. And so that, they're sort of collaborating and then coming up with developing these menu items and then rolling them out to the different stores. And it's going beyond prepared foods as well, because they're now starting to use this talent to roast their own coffee, to their own pickles and jellies and jams. So there's going to be product that's house made, that's sold in the center store too. So, and then he's attracting this talent. I mean, obviously, we've got COVID, so there have been a lot of restaurant closures, or it's been, very difficult for them to operate at, full capacity to impossible. But he's hiring them away with, offering kind of a, quote unquote, normal hours and a normal work week. I mean, so he devised this program where they work 4 10-hour days and then they have 3 days off. And it's like, these are guys and women who were used to working 80-hour weeks in a restaurant, so it's quite a a nice change of pace for them. But it'll be really interesting to see how this evolves. And he was saying, grocery is so embedded in policy, and he's like, I don't knock it, but there's an opportunity to shake things up here and be disruptive in a really positive and good way. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen to the grocery food culinary scene as we kind of get more of this restaurant influence.
Yeah, and when I look back, and we had done obviously pre-COVID, our food service summit, if you would, and talking about grocerants and things like that. One of the allures for a lot of these chefs was, to your point, Jen, the hours and also benefits, because you have a lot of people working in restaurants, including chefs, that don't have benefits if it's a small operation. So this is great. And what I'm starting to hear and see is, a revitalization of the grocerant concept. Yes, you are limited to the amount of seats you can have. Some states you can't even open a grocerant in a supermarket, but I think it's going to come back, and I think it's going to come back strong, to your point. And healthy living it sounds like they're doing a great job. So Christine, the other week, I had the honor of speaking and kicking off the National Fisheries Institute's annual meeting. I've spoken there before in person. Obviously, this time it was virtual, and it just always comes back to the same thing, that consumers are afraid of how to cook fish. They don't know how to cook fish, and it's really quite simple when you think about it. But you've got some good news for the seafood industry.
Yes, so things are going swimmingly for the seafood industry right now, and it's frozen to the rescue. Amid COVID, everyone's favorite restaurant options, were shutting down. And like you say, consumers would turn to restaurants for their seafood selections because they didn't want to prepare it at home, or the flavors and preparations that they enjoyed the most are ones that were maybe a little bit more technical or involved and restaurants specialize in. Without those options, consumers are looking around for something they can make at home and for some kind of variety for their midweek meals, and it's frozen seafood to the rescue. So seafood had a good year in 2020. You're looking at frozen seafood, whether that's fish fillets or things like buttered garlic clams or shrimp that you can throw easily on the grill or throw into a pasta or something. Consumers were turning more and more to those options. Seafood sales were up across the board in 2020. So fresh, frozen, and shelf stable all had a banner year, really. Looking at some specific numbers, fresh seafood dollar sales up 24.5%, frozen up 35.5%. And volumes were up as well across the board, even for shelf stable, which had been on a decline for a few years. So really interesting, consumers, venturing out, exploring a little bit more what they can do with fish and seafood. Some interesting data from IRI kind of broke down what consumers were buying. Salmon, of course, reigned supreme, $2 billion in sales. Who doesn't do, salmon on a weekend a lot of times as kind of an easy go-to within fish and seafood. Shrimp had a great year. Crab actually surged ahead of shrimp in terms of sales. Which was interesting. And when they broke down data by consumer groups, kind of not surprisingly, seafood sales were highest generally among consumers who were older and in more upper income brackets. Shelf stable for all the generations, for everyone who grew up with tuna salad sandwiches, boomers were the only ones to over-index on their shelf-stable seafood. But they did make a point of noting that there's real opportunity, especially in frozen, for younger consumers, for millennials and Gen Z, as an easy option and a heat and eat kind of a thing. So it'll be interesting to see where seafood sales continue to trend, and especially timely topic ahead of Lent here with our Mardi Gras colors that we've got going on.
Exactly. Oh, that's right. It's Mardi Gras Day. Happy Mardi Gras Day. Let's go to our chat. Jason Menke says, candy mac and cheese, ? Only if it has hot dogs in it. But you've got pink, and then you've got the pink hot dogs. Jason, not going there. And John Pandal, one of our regulars, fusion food, more like confusion food. Jason, John, I agree with you 100%. So Pat, give us the update. We've heard a lot of bad news during COVID-19 about restaurants. Jen referred to it as well. Anything good happening in restaurants?
Well, R&D is actually ramping up quite a bit now. There was kind of a pause put on new menu development between April and August, but now it seems like chains are ramping up new product introductions, and especially in December, according to our sister company, Technomic, new menu introductions went up 40%, which is a huge number around the holidays. And they continue to trend in that direction. And one of the reasons is that chefs can now do consumer testing, where, before they weren't able to even intercept with customers in their dining rooms. Now that dine-in service has resumed in a lot of places, they can do, testing of new items and ask consumer opinions. Actually, during the pandemic, one chain, Taco John's, actually did consumer testing with people in their cars who were driving up, and they would bring out items for them to taste test. So things are really, going in a positive direction now.
Any idea of what kind of innovation that we're going to see? I don't know if Technomic reported on that, but is it just going to be more fried chicken sandwiches, or are we going to see some things that are more exciting? Not as exciting as Kraft's, candy mac and cheese, but any ideas?
Well, this month, as Christine mentioned, is Lent starts tomorrow, and there are a lot of seafood items coming on menus. From Captain D's, which is a seafood-focused concept, to places like Del Taco, which is putting fried shrimp in their tacos. So there's a lot of seafood innovation going on this month. Going forward, I think people are getting more into seasonality. They're looking forward to spring, doing kind of lighter items and things with spring ingredients. So I think we're going to see more than chicken sandwiches. I think people want to get out of the comfort food rut and try some new flavors and some innovative preparations.
Yeah, talking about food service and innovation, my favorite, one of my favorite C-store chains is Sheetz. We've talked about that a lot before. I think we've got a bunch of people who are fans of Sheetz here on Winsight Live. But Jackson, what is Sheetz doing that outside of food that's pretty extraordinary for a convenience store chain?
Yeah, well, they've just invested $28.5 million into raising wages for their 18,000 store employees. And they've made moves like this before to shore up their store workforce, but this is big now because this is the third time within a year that they've done something similar to this. They announced that they were hiring 3,000 more employees in October. They made a similar investment in March of 2019 to raise wages. So it seems like Sheetz is really doing a lot to shore up their store employees right now. You have other chains in the industry that are similar to some chains in the grocery industry, rewarding their employees for getting the COVID shot. But this is just really a just direct infusion of cash.
That's great. The Sheetz family, does it again, which is great. And Jen, why don't you wrap us up with some good news?
Sure. So Albertsons Foundation's Nourishing Neighbors initiative is running a month-long, speaking of Valentine's Day, in February, a month-long Feed the Love campaign to fight food insecurity. And they just announced that the Kellogg Company has donated $120,000 to the cause. So a lot of grocers are really focusing on the food insecurity situation right now. So it's good.
That's great. It's fabulous. So thank you all for joining us right here. Keep those comments coming as Jason and John shared today with us. Again, past episodes are on Winsight Grocery Business, CSP, Restaurant Business, and Supermarket Guru. And we will see you next week. Have a great week. Have a safe week and wear a mask and get vaccinated.